Right. But censorship, yeah. So you talked about censorship, and I would like to know some general thoughts about like Tommy Robinson, since it's also applicable to your country, and I would like to know if you have some thoughts about that topic.
Let me tell you what I think is general. I wrote about this a few weeks ago in the National Review in America, but let me tell you what I think is actually going on. I think, and it goes back slightly to the gentleman's question there, I think that there is when you realize that you have got some very serious problems in your society, it's very hard to deal with the primary issue. What is easy to deal with is a secondary issue. So let me give you the example. For years, the thing that Tommy Robinson's been particularly vocal about, the grooming gangs, the rape gangs, they're sometimes called Asian rape gangs, which itself is a problematic phrase, okay? These went on for years. We have report after report from the British government, the British authorities, admitting this is going on. Council workers who knew it was going on, police who knew it was going on, all the local authorities who knew what was going on, all the local MPs who knew what was going on, okay? Every single part of society failed. Every single part. The police, the official reports will say the same thing, were worried about being politically incorrect. The council workers were worried they'd be accused of racism, and so on and so on and so forth. So you have by now, and I'm not exaggerating this is all of the stuff of the official findings, thousands and thousands of young girls from across the UK have been raped by these gangs. Now that's a bad thing to have on your conscience. That's the sort of thing that should keep any decent person awake at night if they had even a tiny role in allowing that to go on. But they don't address what allowed that to go on. We keep seeing this tendency to get the secondary problem and go really hard for that. And the secondary problem always is the people who vocally, often wrongly, often crassly, all sorts of other things, identify in opposition to that. And they come down, they crack down on that as hard as anything. You saw, by the way, a very quick example of that. You saw that in Germany with Angela Merkel. When the Pegida protests began, I didn't agree with them. Like a lot of people, I was keeping an eye on what they were doing and so forth. What does Angela Merkel use her New Year message to do? To attack Pegida. She says, these people in Pegida have coldness in their hearts. Okay, it's very easy to go for this. It's very easy to go for the people who are responding to it. Much harder is to go to the thing those people are trying to raise attention about. And, you know, in all of these cases, there are things that can be said that are critical and should be. But this seems to me to be the pattern we keep on seeing. And you see it here. My friend Mark Stein put it very beautifully in the Danish Parliament a few years ago when we were doing an event there. He said that the most famous Danish story is of the boy who, the emperor's new clothes. And he was sort of, Danish hero. Everyone liked to think they were the boy who, if they saw the emperor had no clothes, would say, look, the emperor's naked. And Mark pointed out that in modern Europe, the boy who noticed the emperor had no clothes would be a fool to mention it, and if he did, he'd probably be clubbed to death by the rest of the crowd. There's this weird tendency to shut down the very people who are pointing to it. You know, there's that old joke, the old saying that that the only thing you can't say in free speech is, you can't shout fire in a crowded theatre. And I always say there is an exception to that, which is if there is a fire, okay? In which case it might be a quite wise idea. But every single time anyone says, look, I'm identifying this problem, everyone cracks down on them. And I just say the same thing always. How about you save some of the energy for shutting down all the people who you think are saying the wrong phrases and so on? Just expend a bit of that energy on the people who are preaching hatred in your society. Direct it at that, and the secondary thing will never come up, because you'll be dealing with it. But for the time being, we're in this weird period where the cost of speaking up remains disproportionately high. And I think that has to change. And the one thing I would say in finishing is this. There is always an assumption that somebody else is going to change that situation for you. And it's never the case. It is never the case. It is only people speaking up for themselves. It's only you. It's only the individual who says, I think this is a lie. I think this is wrong. It's only that changes it. The household cavalry, the cavalry never come in on free speech horses. Never is the case. And that's why I always say the same thing to people. You have to have your own role in this. You speak to your friends, you're honest with people, you tell the truth. You tell the truth in your own life. in whatever way you can, and that's the best way to fight back against this. But it's got to be done.
Mr. Murray, wait for a sec. Just one question. Thank you very much for coming here. So you know we didn't play the World Cup. You play against Colombia. So give us some advice for the betting. Halftime, England, Colombia.
This is like a nightmare. You have touched on the subject I know least about in the entire world.
Okay, leave it.
You found the one person from England who doesn't have a view on this matter.
Okay, we leave it. Have a good trip back home. Thank you very much for coming. Give him a big hand, Mr. Douglas Murray.